you know. Spoilers aplenty here at Starbase 80. PICARDEST. Oh my gosh. The final episode of the third and final season, the series finale, happened last night. It dropped last night on Paramount Plus. And let me get rid of that. And oh my goodness. We got to get started. So it's your old buddy Captain John from Starbase 80, my co-host, and just one of the best guys to ever do this kind of broadcasting with. Let's bring him in here, ladies and gentlemen. Novelist and all-around genius and great host. It is Joe Townsel. Welcome, Joe. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. It's so great to be back once again, Captain John. And you know, if I'm a great co-host, and of course you are the ultimate epitome of host.
Oh, sir, you do me great honor, like a Klingon from the House of Townsel. Your great honor means so much to me.
I never even thought of us in terms of House of Weber and House of Townsel, but I don't think I can unthink it now.
When I was in wrestling, there's this amazing wrestler who I trained. I was newer than he was. He was about a year and a half ahead of me. Great wrestler. If you're a wrestling fan and you know the West Coast, you probably know Carnage. Carnage is just a fantastic guy. I was running a company. He wanted to bring his family, and he was like, can you put it under my last name? And I'm like, yeah, what's your last name? And he goes, Gonzalez. And I'm like, you know, it is Southern California. We got a lot of Gonzalez's. Should I say Carnage Gonzalez? And he was like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, oh, better, House of Carnage. And he was like, wait a minute. And so he actually has created, like, because he has a lot of students and a lot of guys who he mentored. So there is actually a House of Carnage out here. And I accidentally named them.
Well, you have achieved a title that I was once bestowed, and that is the Accidental Genius.
Oh, let me tell you, folks, if you want accidental genius at work, you got to come to Starbase 80. We got every accidental genius you could ever imagine over here. All right, let me get the comment page is wide open if anyone wants to jump in. We are talking the final episode of the series Picard. So now it's a 3-season series and it is done. And this third season, I don't know, Joe. What do you think? Is this the best season of Picard?
I have to say it's absolutely the best season of the 3. I mean, look, we're going to get more into it next week during our 11th hour.
Big wrap-up coming up next week.
Yes, big wrap-up. Season/series wrap-up.
Yeah.
I know what they were going for in seasons 1 and 2. But you know what? It just this was the best one.
Yeah. Yeah, it really it was the reunion and the kind of bring it all home episode of the Next Generation that we always wanted.
Yes.
I mean, as great, and I would never in a million years say that the finale of the Next Generation was not a beautiful, perfect finale. It was. Oh my gosh. Just one of the best finales I've ever seen for a series. And yet getting them back together and having one more adventure with that cast. And, you know, I'll just come right out and say it. And they are so much better at their jobs now. They're better actors. Frakes is a better director. You know, they just carry the show so well. It was something special this season. But you're right. We're going to sum up the season and the series next week on the 11th hour. We are here to talk about this episode.
Yes, indeed.
Which is, of course, part 10, The Last Generation. pretty foreboding.
Yes, until we actually realize what it means.
Yes. Yes, I was I was very impressed that this one, the writing credit is entirely Terry Matalas,
Yes,
the
sir.
executive producer and showrunner of Picard now. He came in season 2, and he directed this one as well. He directed last week's episode, part 9, and really just one of the most. I said it yesterday when we were summing up part 9. I'll say it again. Part 9 is one of the most beautiful hours of Star Trek I've ever seen.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And he continued with the very beautiful photography, cinematography, the characters. Just it really, overall, I'd have to say part 10 is a really strong episode. Were you happy after last night's episode, Joe?
Yes, I mean, I honestly, I didn't have too many surprises.
Good point.
It followed the structure I expected it to follow. Most notably, that pretty much the last third of it would be a lot of wrapping up and sending off and so forth, which was great because there was one moment where we'll get in the beats where I thought, well, this is a good ending, but isn't there a little bit more? And there was.
There was.
Yeah.
There was a lot more. I mean, there was a post-credit scene
Yes.
that was quite quite substantial, quite full. So many tricks pulled in this one by Terry Matalas as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the actual beats of the script, the talking points, the bullet points, but we call them beats, and we call them that because we've got the All right. Joe, what is the first thing that caught your eye in this episode, part 10, The Last Generation? I still can't The Last Generation.
The Last Generation.
Yeah.
And again, that title will be significant for ways that other than what I was thinking. So that was one nice surprise. But what caught my eye and ear first was that distress call from President Anton Chekhov, voiced, of course, by the wonderful Walter Koenig himself.
Now that is so amazing. His name is Anton. Do you think that's because Anton Yelchin, the late Anton Yelchin, played the movie version of
Chekhov?
Chekhov. It's 4:20, man. I'm happy anything up here is working, and I haven't touched a thing. Not yet. Tick, tick, tick.
No, absolutely. That is a tribute to Anton Yelchin, and what a nice one. And of course, it makes sense. I mean, of course, Pavel would name his son Anton. Why not?
Why not? Why not? It's a great name. I love that they got Walter Koenig. I don't always say his name correctly. I love that they got him. I love that he's the president. Just really nice and really got me in the mood to see more connections with old Trek in this episode.
Absolutely. And just have to throw, hey, it's a tidbit. What the heck? We'll throw it in now. I mean, it's very reminiscent, of course, of the similar presidential distress call from Star Trek 4.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Good.
Stay away from Earth at all costs if you're not anywhere near,
Yes. Oh man, really, really scary. You know what? I forgot to put up this greeting from Craig Robinson. Evening, gents. Got a pot of Earl Grey at the ready. Engage. Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Craig.
We will indeed. Now, where we left things was everybody 25 and under on all these ships, and that's a lot of crew people, men, women, NB. That's a lot of people, and they have all been. Again, we talked about this yesterday. It still just blows me away. The Borg, okay, yeah, the Borg, what we know at this point is that the Borg have used these renegade changelings to infiltrate Starfleet to reset all of the transporters, I guess the ship's transporters anyway. And if you get transported, it rewrites your genetic code. So now you are sort of USB ready to be taken over by the Borg, just using your physiology, just using purely organic inputs, if you will. And the entire fleet starts attacking Earth. The entire Starfleet just basically, well, first they're going to go to space dock, and then march on through and destroy Earth. And that is about as dire as I've ever seen anything. That is so dire. Honestly, when I saw the title of this one was going to be The Last Generation, I was like, well, if they destroy the Earth, how do they go forward with the show from here? If this truly is the last generation, are they destroying Starfleet? The last generation? So that was that's why the title freaks me out. Because when I first saw it, I was like, wait, you're just pretty much telling me it's over.
Yeah, done deal.
Terry Matalis is very good at that. He's very good at dangling the end of everything. I know I complained a bit about it yesterday because this is frankly what burned me out over Doctor Who. It's just so samey. It's just everything will cease to exist. Okay. Yeah, like last week. And the week before that. And every episode before that. Sure. Okay. Where's Tom Baker again? So I was really kind of shaking in my boots as they picked up the action. And we have two crews. We have the crew from the Enterprise, Star Trek Next Generation crew. Right. They have gotten back to the Enterprise D, our beloved fat one. And meanwhile, on the Titan, which of course was Riker's old ship. I think that's when is that when you first saw the Titan?
Well, this is the Titan A. So Titan, Riker only commanded this ship temporarily when Shaw was incapacitated this season. But Riker's ship was the original Titan.
Oh,
which was actually originally commanded apparently by Savick.
Oh, wow. Oh, I love that. So it's got quite the lineage.
It does.
I'm very happy with that, and we'll cover it later why that really counts. But I dig that. I totally dig that we kind of know this ship. It's a beautiful ship too, the Titan. As much as I am still hung up on the fact that I just feel like the Enterprise D was always such an oversized, way too big, way too wide. To me, it was just like the Norwegian cruise line of space. When I first saw the Titan, I was like, man, that's a feisty little ship. That's a maneuverable, fighting little ship. So I don't know if I could name any ship I don't like from Star Trek. But here we are. We've got two ships basically against every other ship in Starfleet.
Well, against the Borg cube on over by Jupiter, and against the whole Starfleet over by Earth. So it's not even that they're fighting together side by side.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because they are divided and quite nearly conquered at this point. Right. So Enterprise D with the Next Generation crew. So we have the newly revived and reintegrated, though he still has some bugs in the system, Data.
Yes.
We have the retired, but he's back, Riker, as well as Deanna Troi, his wife. We've got is Geordi a commander at this point?
Well, he's playing commander now on the Enterprise D, but he is a Commodore.
That's right.
He actually outranks Riker, which is interesting.
Oh, that's right. He's a Commodore. I love it. I love it. We've got Commodore LaForge and Dr. Crusher.
Yes.
No small part of this season at all. Very,
No.
very big part of this season.
No, Gates McFadden told us at the beginning, he says, this is by far the most fulfilling and best part I've played as Crusher. And she weren't lying, you know.
No, she weren't lying one bit.
Yeah.
I think you feel the same way I do, Joe.
Mm.
I just love Gates McFadden in this series.
Oh, totally agree.
Just really rising to the occasion. Got to say it for all of the actors, especially from the original Next Generation. They're just doing their best work. It's incredible to watch. It's so funny that Brent Spiner throughout Picard, throughout all 3 seasons, has been playing very significant roles and making very significant contributions as villains.
Yes.
Little bit of Data here and there in sort of flashback or what have you, but he is gone. They bring him back at the end of the 3rd season here. That's happened a few episodes ago, and he's trying to reintegrate all of the different inputs that the personalities that have been put into his head, and he's working hard at it. But it makes him. I mean, I like to say they worked really, really hard, and they turned Data into Brent Spiner.
Pretty much. Well, they made him human, and that's where the humanity of Data comes from. It is from the actor, of course. And I am so grateful that we got this, evolved Data who still has all the lovable qualities he always did as an android, but now has taken that into a near human body, if not totally human,
Right.
and now has these challenges to work with going forward. So yes, there is still massive story potential for Data going forward.
Yeah.
And I'm also very grateful we didn't get yet another Soong lookalike this season.
we pretty much completed that course. I mean, especially after season 2. I was like, if I never see another Soong, I think I'd be okay with that.
Same here. Been there, done that. Again, not to take away from Spiner's ability and even the use of the characters, but it did stretch credibility just a tad to have them all see so similar in appearance.
Just a scotch. Where are we in terms of beats? I've brought us up to. I mean, we've got they do.
Yeah, you did a great job bringing us to well into the dual battles taking place. At this point, we do have the Enterprise locating the cube in that, first with that beautiful approach coming out of warp with the the big red gaseous spot of Jupiter where the cube is hanging out, and it's a monstrosity to be sure. That thing has been modified and cannibalized, literally, just for this one last gasp of assimilation.
It's almost unrecognizable. It didn't even look like a cube to me until this episode. And we do find out why, and that's interesting. But I also wanted to point out, as soon as I saw it, especially in the storm, in that big red storm spot that's on Jupiter, it reminded me of all of the previous Star Trek episodes of any series that basically had a haunted house.
Oh,
or like a castle. I mean, it just seemed gothic. And then once they get inside, it seemed more gothic as far as I was concerned.
I mean, first time in years we felt terrified being inside a cube, really, because again, this is the last dying, desperate, breath of the Borg collective as a whole. I mean, it's now or never for them.
I didn't know to expect that. I don't think you knew either. That basically when they get into the cube and they do find the Borg drones, they've all been drained of life.
Yes.
And basically cannibalized by the ship. ship / the Borg Queen.
Right.
They've been okay in part 9. Jack, Picard / Crusher, so Pusher, Picusher.
Pusher?
Jack Jack meets the Borg Queen. We do see Alice Krieg's name. She is the classic Borg Queen.
Yes.
We see her name in the credits. My mind is just swimming here. Oh, and she makes the tentacle cords come up and plug themselves into Jack, and
Yes.
Jack's now been assimilated.
And quite willingly too, as it turns out.
Yes, he didn't even flinch. But his eyes went black and he got all the black, thready.
Well, he became Locutus Jr. It was literally the same makeup and aesthetic, prosthetic approach.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. They never got around to cutting pieces off him. That made me thankful for little favors, because that was always something that grossed me out, was how they would basically cut big hunks out of humans and then put in machinery as they assimilated them.
Well, I mean, I guess the keeping the organic elements as whole might have some significance in terms of their roles, meaning Locutus and now Vox.
Yeah. And we do, as you joked earlier, we do have a son of Locutus situation. That is how the Borg Queen thinks of him. She actually thinks of Jack, aka Vox, as the son of Locutus and the Borg Queen, although the Borg Queen never claimed that she mated with Locutus, but she creates everything in the Borg continuum.
Well, mated via their connection via the Borg Collective. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you recall in First Contact that Data and the Borg Queen then had a little moment, and Data got all aroused, and as far as I could tell, there was no penetration there. So.
I guess I'm such a weirdo. I remember Alice Krieg in the movie in First Contact, and I just found her so attractive.
Well, because Alice Krieg is attractive, and we were looking through the makeup a bit, but but there was definitely a bad girl element there too.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, there's like a leather-bound temptress element there. There really is. There's something very sexy about Alice Krieg as the Borg Queen, the cinematic Borg Queen, because we've seen a couple other actors play her.
Yes, indeed.
So now I remember that on the Titan, this was very cool. 7 of 9 refuses to leave the Titan.
Yes.
I think that's the first moment where I said, oh, she's going to be the captain. Had you thought that before? Had that worked?
Well, I think it's been kind of a popular rumor that 7 of 9 would become captain. Shaw gave her the field promotion in that moment when he died, and she stayed along with Rafi.
Right.
So, did I think that this would be a permanent deal? No, not necessarily. I mean, again, was I surprised, as we'll get to later? No.
Yeah.
But it could have gone anyway. I mean, but for the moment, her role and Rafi's and the remaining unassimilated on Titan were to take back the bridge, beam the assimilated into the transporter room, get them secured there.
That was really cool that they did that.
That was very cool. 7 made the comment that Rafi might have inverted portable transport, although we did kind of see that in Insurrection, but we'll give it to her.
Yeah.
With that, the little things flying in and attaching and then beaming them out, but
yeah,
similar technology.
That's pretty cool. It's
pretty cool. Not to take anything from Rafi. That was a great move, and it bought them a lot of time they needed, to work independently on the bridge.
Yeah.
But of course, the deadline, for lack of a better word, there is that okay, we've got the ship, but we need to make sure we do something and buy more time before they realize it completely, because look what happened to the Excelsior last week.
Exactly. We
As soon as they
know.
realized they no longer had it, they said, eliminate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And there are still enough people on the ship who can enough assimilated on the ship who can lower the shields, who can actually set them
Sure.
up to get killed. So they're doing everything they can to stay alive on the ship, but also stay alive within the fleet. And as Joe says, buy time for the Enterprise D crew who is attacking the cube, which, as far as anyone is concerned, is impossible. It's like getting in a VW Jetta and attacking a castle. It's just not going to
Yes.
work.
And as Worf points out, I mean, these are antiquated weapons. Everything's out of date. You
Yeah.
know, certain systems are not going to cooperate and are going to fail more easily. So
Yeah.
the odds is stacked against them.
Yep. Yeah.
And by now, 7 of 9 has realized that this is the plan back on the Enterprise near Jupiter. So she says, we've got to do what we can to buy time. There is a line of sight component to the connection of the connected fleet. So they alternate cloaking and firing as much as they can. Again, buying that precious time back for the Enterprise.
The cloaking is working until it doesn't. Please don't let me skip any beats. Are there any beats until we find out what happens to the cloak? Because that was oh no. Oh yeah, no, that makes sense.
I think we'll just make sure we get in chronological order real quick before that
Sure.
we do have Picard, Riker, and Worf having decided to beam into the cube, ostensibly to locate the beacon, which is sending the signal at all other new Borg, and for Picard to locate Jack.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, let's talk about the cloak.
The fact that they have the cloak already is one of those callbacks. This is to part 6 or part 7.
I couldn't tell you exactly. I'm going to say 6.
6 sounds about right to me, because it was Jack and oh my gosh, who's the girl stationed?
Sydney,
and the other girl is as you were remembering yesterday, Alondra.
Alondra is
Played by Mika Burton,
yes.
LeVar Burton's actual daughter. I love her. I love the girl who plays Sydney.
Sydney as well. Yes.
Yeah, she's a straight up great actress. But I love that Mika Burton is, she's daughter of this legendary actor and director, and she's good. She works. She puts the work in, and I love her. I just love how she looks. I guess for me now, Joe, you and I are both older. We're old fellers.
We're seasoned.
We remember when LeVar Burton first came to prominence as the star of the miniseries Roots. And he didn't have the easiest career after that. There wasn't a whole lot for him to do. So that when he ended up playing Geordi on Next Generation, I was always so happy about that. I was like, I always liked LeVar Burton. I'm really happy he's got a gig.
Oh, me too.
And the character became so significant, and they've just continued with that. So anyway, skipping back to what we were talking about, the beauty of they suddenly lose the cloak because the LaForge girls, who are assimilated Borg,
yes,
know that it exists, and they get to it and they destroy it. Of course, their human memory would be that they were part of hooking it up to the ship. Sydney was part of stealing it, right?
Well, reminiscent, of course, of Best of Both Worlds. I mean, their ultimate weapon didn't work because Picard was aware of it before he was assimilated.
Yes. Oh, clever connection. Ooh,
thank you, sir.
I love that.
That's why that's why Guinan said, if anything that if you're going by the book of Picard, it's time to throw that book away.
Right. Oh, fantastic. So I know that the characters are basically saying, so it's Riker and Picard and Worf, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty much thinking this is their last mission. They're going to die.
Yeah, there's somewhat tearful, not spoken aloud, but through their eyes, a beautiful moment there with Riker and Troy, for example. And they said
Yeah.
this is definitely shaping to be a suicide mission.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also a beautiful line that they've given to Picard, and when I say they, I mean Terry Matalas is
Yeah,
the writer.
right.
So, I mean, we could definitely say Terry Matalas, but I think there's probably a group effort there too.
Mm,
Um, he basically says, "I can't be your captain now. I'm
right.
not your captain anymore. I'm a father
I have to be a
trying to
father
save my
now.
son."
Yeah.
And I love that because he knows because he needs to get to Jack, he can't let Jack die, and he can't let Jack die alone, that he's willing to give up everything for it. That level of giving and frankly being a father
Mm-hmm.
comes up later too. And it just was beautifully done. If there's anything Patrick Stewart is great at, it's just doing Star Trek acting mixed with his incredible theatrical powers. I didn't look it up what the speech was from that he did as the toast.
Neither did I. Neither did I. But that was clearly something that was very eloquent and can be attributed to an original source of somebody.
One of the things that I loved, and this was especially in season 3 of Star Trek The Next Generation, was that they would do little scenes from Shakespeare.
Right.
And and that was when I had learned as a dorky fan, I'm reading Starlog or something, and I'm like, oh, Patrick Stewart's from the Royal Shakespeare Company. Holy cow! Oh, he most of his acting education was with the RSC. He
Mm-hmm.
pretty much grew up doing Shakespeare.
Yes.
Shakespeare's just
Mm.
woven into his existence. There are references to Shakespeare in the original series of Star Trek.
Yes.
So I always loved that connection. I loved that, Shakespeare being so classy, but also being sort of
Mm.
good taste.
Right.
Um, I thought that really helped Star Trek Next Generation. So the fact that they come back to it and basically you know, he's toasting everybody. I assume it's Shakespeare. I should have done the stupid freaking research for this, but I had a really busy day, guys. I got
That's okay. You
home
know
just
what?
in time.
We got a season wrap up next week. We can any remaining tidbits and observations, will be there.
That's a very good point. That's a very
Yeah.
good point. Okay, where are we in the beats, Joe?
Well, pretty much we have Picard parting ways for now, at least, possibly permanently. He's
Yes.
going to go down one level to where Jack and the Queen are. Riker and Worf are heading off to go locate the beacon. Beautiful parting lines there, of course. I mean, Riker, of course, just repeating that it's been such an honor and a thrill to serve with you and to be your friend. Worf in true Klingon form, especially his new pacifist Zen master type Klingon form. There are two words that we do not acknowledge, and that is defeat or farewell. So off they go to blast that beacon.
Craig brings up a very funny point. When they were still on the ship, I wanted Picard to break into his "this far, no further" speech. I
Well, what you
love
gonna
that.
smash?
I love it. Yeah, it's just very doomy, gloomy, and that's drama, and I'm totally here for it. Really, Terry Matalas is so good at creating this unwinnable situation where everyone starts going, "Wow, what's it going to be like to be dead in the next 10 minutes?" There are people just freaking out, but still, maintaining their composure and serving their fellow Starfleet officers, and that's what I love
Well,
about
and
Star Trek.
and the heartbreak with Picard and Beverly,
Yeah.
knowing that it might be necessary to save the galaxy, to
Yes.
sacrifice Jack and themselves, and
Yes.
Riker saying, "I love you, Mzadi.
Oh man. Oh
I may soon be reunited with our son."
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so when the D, okay, so let's get there, because the D does finally find that core, find that sphere in
Yes.
the middle of the, wrecked uh Borg cube, and they realize that if they blow it up, the whole thing's going to go.
Right. It's tightly integrated.
So you can't just unplug the transmitter, though we'll see.
Yeah.
You can't just stop the transmission and then everything's okay. Everybody's going to die if they do that. They will probably have a chance to escape, but they won't have a chance because of all the interference and technobabble. They can't just beam Picard, Riker, and Worf out. They're probably going to have to leave them behind. This creates that terrible moment where Riker just says, I'm going to die.
Right.
And he like prays it, he says it. And I think because he says Imzadi, that's when Troy picks it up. And she locates him.
We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Are we? Okay.
Just one portion.
Do the fill-in.
The only thing we need to acknowledge that that Worf and Riker did use the cube's programming to locate the beacon, which was then transmitted to the Enterprise, because they first, of course, had to fight off a couple of remaining Borg.
Yes.
In a true kick-ass fashion, especially with Worf's part, with that sword. And a favorite moment, of course, is Worf saying, "Here, take the sword." Clank. I said, "Shit, that thing's heavy."
That was hilarious.
And then there's a phaser in the hilt all along, and Worf says, "Well, swords are more fun."
Yeah. Riker's like, "You had a phaser and you've been using the sword part?" Swords are more fun.
But at that point, they do, man. After taking down those two Borg, they did transmit the location of the beacon, centrally located, as we know, to the Enterprise. And then from there, we pick up where you were describing, John, where Deanna picks them. Now, Data has had to convince very emphatically, very much with his heart, saying, "I can get the ship in there."
That's right. I didn't want to forget that part.
It may be a matter of be like, we might have to be like the Millennium Falcon flying into the Death Star. It might be a little bit tight here and there, right. But I can get us in there. And Geordi's trusting his friend after a moment's argument, saying, "Let's go with Data's gut."
Which I love. It is such a callback. I saw that episode not too long ago. So when we were on Starbase 80, like a year ago, just going through old episodes, there was one where Lavar, where Geordi is describing to Data about using your gut, following your gut. And so we've come full circle with Data going, "I can do this." No one quite believes him at the beginning that he has the capacity to drive through this tight path.
This is a Galaxy class starship hotel, city town that used to house 1,000 people. Right. So yeah, it's not a shuttlecraft. It's not an X-wing fighter. It's a big ship.
He basically drove New York's premier hotel, the Four Seasons, into a base, into the Borg base. Just dynamite. God, and it looked great too. I loved how all of this looked. Just tremendous work from everybody on that. And then we get to, let's see, is this when, what happens next? You tell me. I'm not going to guess.
Well, we're pretty much where we left off with your preview of what was to come in the next few minutes.
Yeah.
In that they're ready. Beverly, despite her great sorrow, is ready to push the button over at Tactical. And Geordi says, "Wait a minute." And he and Data both kind of exchange a knowing glance, and they say, "We can locate them." And that's pretty much when Deanna is picking up on them as well. And say, we at least we're getting Riker and Worf. We're not seeing Picard because he's still down below.
Right.
In the
right.
so-called dead zone that as Data identifies.
The dead zone. That's right. They use
Yeah.
that phrase.
Yeah.
And that is basically, they don't know, but we know that is in the nest of the Borg Queen.
Yes.
In her, in her throne room, if you will, where Jack, aka Vox, is all plugged in and is basically like mumbling orders to all the different ships that are attacking the space dock. And
He's the
over.
transmitter. He's the focal point of everything at this point.
I just think it's funny that he's like fire, 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 fire. It's like, come on, man, just like send one fire and CC everybody.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, you don't have to say fire each time. Okay, whatever.
Well, at this point too, I mean, I might be getting the chronology a bit out of whack, but this is about the point where space dock is just about to go down.
Yeah.
Planetary defenses are down.
Yeah.
And they are now targeting all the cities of Earth.
That's right.
And that's the nature of a lot of the commands Jack is giving at this point.
Right. I don't want to be mean to any city. But we know that San Francisco is one of the main cities. That's where Starfleet is located.
The Academy, yes.
The Academy and all their buildings and stuff are located down there. And, Manhattan is, of course, always important. But Philadelphia?
Hey, a lot of people like their cheesesteaks, John. Come on.
Maybe in this century, Philadelphia is a lot more important than it is now. And I'm not here to poop on Philadelphia. But honestly, if you give Philadelphia the chance, it will poop on you. No, I don't want to be mean to Philadelphia. I'm sure there's lovely, lovely people in Philly.
It's not. It doesn't usually come up in a list of cities to be targeted when these types of things occur.
You don't expect aliens to be like Philadelphia.
Yes.
But oh, that's fine. That's fine. Nobody's attacking Santa Barbara, which is like my nearest big city.
Yeah, I didn't hear Kingman in there, so I guess we're safe.
That's fine.
But yes, it is about this point that Deanna does get that sense, and she hops over to the helm, and she's going to take him somewhere. Not sure exactly where, but pretty clear she's going to take him where their people are within the cube. And kudos to Troy. She didn't crash the ship this time.
When are you going to let that go? I loved that sequence. That sequence to me, okay, maybe I'm just such a jerk, but to me, that sequence was, you're not killing my man. Out of my way. Like, she's taking off her earrings, taking off the heels, like she's rolling up the sleeves. She's gonna fight for her man. And she grabs the helm of that gosh darn gigantic battleship and takes it right up to where they are, right over their head.
And nobody even blinks when she does. I mean, they were arguing with Data, getting him in there, but Troy gets in there. Go for it, Deanna.
It just echoes an earlier scene, which we didn't mention yet, which was when Beverly does take control of Tactical. She's like lightning, and she knows exactly what she's doing. I'm watching her doing it, and I'm like, wait, what? And then she looks up, and everyone's looking at her like that. And she goes, what? A lot's changed in 20 years.
Certainly has. Got a new skill set there.
And, we know that at times she and Jack were fighting for their lives. So, yeah, she knows how to use Tactical.
It actually answered a question for me, if they intended it or not. Because I mentioned last time that everyone kind of resumed their season 1 positions on the bridge,
right?
Except for Beverly, who stood behind Tactical with Worf instead of taking her little mini chair next to Deanna.
Right.
Well, now I kind of think that was by design. She's a tactician.
She
wasn't going to serve anybody by sitting in the little chair next to Troy.
Exactly. She knows she's more help next to Worf. than than sitting on her little chair. And you know what? For me, as a fan, I'm like, yep, yeah, a lot can change in 20 years. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there were times when Deanna would sit in the captain's chair during night shift
Right.
on the original series, so she knows the bridge. She's well versed in the bridge. She did, however, crash, a major
Well,
ship.
you know what? She did a controlled crash landing during a self-destruct or type of maneuver, and was ordered to do so with the E to try to stop,
Right.
stop the Romulans. So okay,
Right.
let's stop giving her a hard time.
Oh, please. I mean, we've all done things we're not proud of in Star Trek. I don't think anybody on that bridge can, I mean, they tease Worf about destroying the E, but oh, I'm sorry, the F, right?
No, he destroyed
No,
the E apparently, or
he destroyed
the
the
E
E.
was destroyed under his command. Let's make it
That's right.
accurate.
That's right. The
Yeah,
E.
so that's what happened to the E.
Uh,
So at
the
any rate, Riker and Worf, having transmitted the location of the beacon to the Enterprise, find Jean-Luc just in time to see himself plug himself back in to the collective in an effort to reach Jack.
we
What it got
know.
to be one of the most beautiful sequences in the whole episode.
I absolutely agree, and it is. There are echoes of it in previous episodes. Now, in this very series, when Lore and Data, so Lore, the evil brother, Data, the good brother of the two androids, they meet in this cyberspace, matrix, big white space.
Yeah.
And basically Data, we've discussed this on the show. It's very beautiful. Data gives Lore his memories, gives him the things that he values, and it changes Lore. And that is one of the reasons why Lore and Data exist in the same body now. It was interesting to me that they combined that sort of confrontation in this cyberspace with something that we know from Best of Both Worlds in the original Next Generation series. There are references to, actually quite a bit in their dealings with the Borg. There are a lot of references to the collective and how you're never alone, and you really feel this amazing connection. Later, when we learn Seven of Nine's story in Voyager, it's a lot about that. It's a lot about her relationship with the collective, because it's not a bad relationship. As terrible as it is to be assimilated, you do feel that you're in this, shared family.
Right.
And that's kind of beautiful. Also reflected in how Odo feels once he joins the Great Joining,
The Great Link.
The Great Link with the Changelings. It's interesting that the Changelings are working with the Borg Queen because they both have their own version of a collective.
Yes, very much so.
And it all comes to a head when Jack doesn't want to unplug.
It's a false euphoria, as his father tells him. I believe where we are too, in terms of location. You might recall the two-parter near the end of the Voyager's run, Unimatrix Zero, where basically when they're plugged in and inactive, in that case, they went to an idyllic forest setting.
Oh, I forgot.
And they're themselves again. And this is, I think, where we are now with Jean-Luc and Jack.
Yeah.
Is that they're both plugged in but not active. They are like in regeneration mode almost. And this is where Jean-Luc knew that they could communicate without interference of the Queen.
Yes. And everything that unfolded in all of that was so real and just so heartfelt. I was genuinely emotionally loving what was going on in that part of the story, especially when Jean-Luc says, "I'm not going anywhere. If we're dying,
Yeah. If
I'll
you
die
won't
here.
leave, I'll stay with you.
I'll stay with you."
Yeah.
And I believed it. I didn't.
Oh, yes.
I didn't, one of Jack's problems, and I always find it sort of that angsty hero thing, oh, you're not my dad, and you're never going to be able to make up for not being in my life, and you never needed me. And this is one of the most significant examples of Jean-Luc Picard saying, no, you're my son. I'm here. I'm here for you. And that's that. I don't have a better place to be.
Well, as he admitted pretty much earlier and definitely here, I joined Starfleet to find a family, and I found one, and I eventually let them in, but there was still a piece missing that I didn't know was missing until I met you.
And I didn't know if Jack was going to buy it, but thankfully he did. And
well, he had to overcome that lifelong feeling of loneliness. Because recall early on in the season, he found his dad at 10 Forward in Los Angeles.
Right.
And hoping for that connection.
Yeah.
And Jean-Luc, unaware of his presence, said, have all I need. Don't need anybody else.
Yeah, I never needed a family. I never needed kids. I had everything I needed with Starfleet. And that was the beginning of the end for their relationship. And that was from this season. And that was a very good piece of the story. Let's pound through the rest of the
let's do that,
because we got some down and dirty to do.
We sure do. Well, basically at that point in the story, Jack is very emotional. He's weeping, and this finally brings him to his senses, if that's not unfair to say.
Yeah.
Unplugs the rest of himself where Jean-Luc started to unplug him before. Jean-Luc's struggling to get that thing out of his neck. Well, Jack is detached as the Borg Queen acknowledges that poor misshapen thing.
Yeah.
He said only he can release himself at this point. Well, he did, and he released his father too.
And it was touch and go there for a moment. I appreciated that conflict. That was very scary.
Once all four of them are back in transporter range, you just see Trent, beaming up from within the Borg cube. Beautiful shot of the Enterprise parking overhead, getting in position. And one by one back on the bridge as they come in from the transporter room, all four, Jack, Picard, Riker, and Worf, are safe and get the heck out of there because that cube's about to go bye-bye along with the beacon.
And unlike, I'd have to say 99% of the time when I was watching Next Generation, I never thought, oh, they might die. I mean, best of both worlds, where they take Picard and turn him into Locutus. I actually thought at the end of that season, and then of course that long summer, until the next season begins, I thought maybe they might actually turn their ex-captain into like their number one villain.
Well, and there was the whole, true or otherwise, there was the whole story about Patrick Stewart and having some contract negotiation difficulties. Would he actually come back, etc.?
And that makes a lot of sense. That provides a lot of logic. And again, I'm with you. I don't know if I 100% believe that story, because sometimes people just make up stories that seem logical and they sneak through the screen. But anyway, the bringing it back to this episode, I didn't know who was going to survive. The fact that everybody survived for the most part, I mean, I could cry all day about the loss of Shaw.
Well, yeah, that's clearly the big loss, and what a testament to the performance and the writing of that character that where he started. And again, not to get too far into 11th hour material, but yeah, awesome character, and a couple other lesser knowns that we said, oh no, Tavine,
the Vulcan. Oh, I like Tavine.
Yeah,
she had a real future in my mind.
That's right. Well, that Borg cube is blown up, and I'm going to read from this directly because I just thought it was so clever on my part to list it as such. Let me find it. Just give me a moment, Captain. I'll just have to do it by memory. But basically, coming back on the Enterprise D bridge, Beverly hugs Jack. Riker kisses Troy. And Worf goes to sleep and snores.
Oh
all is right with the world.
That was one of the funniest scenes. That was one of the funniest things. Now it reminded me of the scene from the film Aliens where Michael Baine's character Hicks, like they're going down to the planet and they're going through all the, terrible turbulence and everything. And the Marine captain's like, all right, everybody get your weapons ready. We're moving on as soon as we land. And somebody wake up Hicks.
Yeah, that's so classic.
But you get to be a certain age, and once the adrenaline comes down, you might want to take a little nap.
Well, Worf he's 5 minutes past kicking some serious Borg butt hand to hand with a heavy ass sword.
That was amazing.
So yeah, he has a little nap time coming for sure.
And now we get to the nice part of the story, where basically, is it 1 year later yet? I mean, we do
not quite. Let's
Okay.
make sure we
Yeah.
finish out. So obviously with the beacon gone, the Borg dead, turning out that here comes the episode title. This is the last generation of the Borg. Because the Borg Queen was telling us we are working on the next generation of Borg. Well, sorry, didn't work. So they're
That's
done.
right. Yeah. Now, and that was interesting. Her entire plan was based not on shoving machinery into, humans or humanoids, but actually evolving humans into Borg. That was pretty clever.
Very clever. And as this happens, of course, back on the Titan, just as the assimilated youngsters are getting ready to retake the bridge, led by Sydney.
Yeah.
Borg transmission is gone. Borg influence is gone forever. They are unassimilated. They are back to normal. Sydney, it looks like she's going to break into tears, seeing that she is pointing a phaser at Seven, but it's okay. Seven gives her a hug of reassurance, and everything's going to be is going to be great. They're going to assess their damages and go from there. So yes, I think at this point, more or less, we are at 1 year later. And I thought this was a little bit of a, I guess it doesn't, it makes sense, but I almost thought that the one of the scenes there where we see Riker, Picard, and Geordi deactivating the Enterprise that is now parked at the Fleet Museum, which is wonderful. It's better than being in a wreck on Viridian 3. But they're in the exact same clothes. So I'm thinking, was that scene meant to maybe happen before 1 year later? But it's a minor point.
Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. They are wearing exactly the same stuff.
Although, I mean, if Riker and Geordi are both active, why wouldn't they have their uniforms?
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure. I guess Riker really wasn't in the uniforms. At any rate, it's a minor nitpick. If it's that.
I think you're probably right about the explanation of it was supposed to be part of another part of time, because, they do a lot of editing in this show.
Yeah.
It's very cinematic. And so I'm sure there's a lot of things they had to trim and cut and rearrange. So, we
or maybe they just thought that maybe they just accepted knowingly the little bit of an error there, just to include this scene with the others that are about to come, which are as follows. I have to comment though, as they deactivate the Enterprise D, which is now there for thousands to enjoy as history. Riker says, "Take care of her, Geordi," and Geordi says, "She's always taken care of us, good care of us," which of course reminds me to Admiral McCoy's line in the encounter at Firepoint: "Treat her well, and she'll always bring you home." And she did I induce a tear, Captain?
Don't get me crying. Do not get me crying. You're right. You're absolutely right.
I've already had my tears, so.
Oh man. I loved the line as she took care of us. I mean, that for me was holding them back, blinking them back. But the fact, you're right. McCoy does say that to Data. Oh, that was incredible. I loved that.
Next, we did get our promised second appearance of Tuvok. It wasn't wasn't a trick of coming next week. So thankfully that was not the case.
Right.
And
I'm so happy to have been wrong about that.
me too. But there's Seven ready to get her licks. He's saying, you know what? The Enterprise D has been, and I think we're before the 1 year later, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We Enterprise D has been pardoned, given the circumstances for their part in commandeering the Titan.
Yeah.
Seven, you still have to talk to you, and she is ready to resign. She says, I understand. Says
she does resign.
She does resign, and
yeah.
Tuvok, bless him, says, "Hold on, got something to show you." And it's Shaw's performance evaluation of her, where he also acknowledges her chosen true name.
Yeah.
And the fact that, I love this line, if she breaks the rules were probably broken to begin with.
To me, that is the very first step of Terry Matalas going, I'm pitching you a show.
Oh, yes.
There is that great tradition in Star Trek of the backdoor pilot, where they introduce characters or situations. Gary Seven in the original series. Did they do one for Deep Space Nine? I mean, the introduction of Ensign Rowe was, I always thought they were going backdoor pilot with that too. Like they definitely wanted to use Ensign Rowe.
Yes.
And that was late in the series. So
there's numerous instances over the franchise history where there could have been a very good quote unquote spin-off take.
Yeah.
Or offshoot, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I mean, you find out later, like Armin Shimmerman says, he was at a party and one of the big wigs at the network came up to him and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, your series never happened." And he's like, "My what now?" Because they were going to spin Quark off into his own series. They apparently had been using Quark episodes to show other network people, like, this character is great. You're going to freaking love him. And I would have watched it.
Oh, of course. I mean, way back in the day, when TNG was still running, Jonathan Frakes said, "A Star Trek sitcom, Star Trek The Rikers in Space, I'm down."
This episode was so funny. There were so many real, honest to goodness laughs in this episode. I don't think they're not trying to do a comedy. I think they're pretty comfortable getting comedy in there. But that always worked in the movies too. So.
Of course, and not forced, not hokey or corny, but naturally flowing from the character and their characterization. I mean, as far as humor MVP, got to give it to Worf this whole season. So again, more for next week's discussion.
Yeah.
But back to 1 year later, I mean, now we have Jean-Luc and Beverly and Jack in the shuttle heading into space dock. Going to be escorting Jack to his first posting after an accelerated 1 year stint, apparently, at the Academy. And they're approaching what seemingly is the Titan. This is, of course, the Titan.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Jean-Luc. Wait till we get up over the top of the hull. USS Enterprise, NCC 1701G.
The G. And that was another full circle moment for me of, I always liked the Titan. I didn't want to see the Titan go away. What a beautiful little ship. And I do think the Titan is more comparable to actually the kind of ships that that Jack has already said he loves, which were the Constitution class. Enterprise 1.
Exactly right. So there you go. I mean, again, full circle, and that's just wonderful. He appears on the bridge, and this fooled me for a moment.
Yeah,
plops his butt right down in the captain's chair, saying, "Hey, status report." And it takes just a moment for Rafi to say, "Out," just like at the beginning of the season when Seven did it to him.
Yes, I love
Captain
that.
Seven, number one, Rafi. Turns out that Jack's going to be the, I don't know, I'm sure that there's more to his role than this, but special counselor to the captain. And he is a doctor, so it stands reason that he will probably serve in that capacity at some point.
Oh, that's a very good point. I mean, he is a man of many talents.
But he is definitely in his bridge position. as any doctor would be on that ship. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wonderful.
I really think Seven as a captain is just the best as well. I'm so happy that happened.
Whatever shakiness or lack of experience or just overall education was lacking at the end of last season, the beginning of this one, was duly earned and shown and spoken.
Yes.
It wasn't just like off screen. Okay, you're cool, Captain
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Natural progression, to be sure.
I mean, it's funny because on Voyager you meet Janeway, and they just tell you she's super good at the job, and she's just one of the best,
Right.
and she proves herself to be, and she is. But if you've been watching Trek forever, you've known Seven of Nine since she was the most outsider she
Yes.
could be. And to now have gone through everything she's gone through, I just love the close-ups on her face, because Jerry Ryan has some flaws in her beauty, which are, and I say this to everybody who likes to look at attractive people, flaws can be beautiful as well.
Well, flaws sometimes make up part of that beauty. It's characteristic and not plastic, and
Right.
it's human.
Right. As sort of baby doll perfect as she was 25 years ago when she was introduced to Star Trek, she's got some mileage on her, and she is a very accomplished officer. And she had a terrible captain. She had a total jerk off of a captain in Liam Shaw. But he recognized, she's not by the book. And just as Joe was saying earlier, that whole scene, Todd Stashwick coming in for one last dose of amazing acting. He really pushed it, but I really appreciated what he did in it. And yeah, she's a captain now. And I gotta say, I mean, maybe we're getting down to dirty now.
Let's wrap it. There's one big part left.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up and we can get down and dirty. Yeah.
All
So
right.
what other way to end the season series proper than in 10 forward back in Los Angeles? Apparently Guinan's off camera somewhere giving him the side eye because they're wanting to close down the place.
They refer to her, but they didn't get her.
So she's off pouting somewhere because she wants to close up and go home. But
yeah,
that's all right. It's a special occasion. And we have our seven crew members gathered probably the last time for a while.
Yeah.
And it's time for a toast. We've already shared where our next immediate destinations are. The Rikers, they're either going to some exotic extraterrestrial locale or going to Disney World, one of the two.
Orlando.
Worf is going to be practicing or teaching a class in something I'm going to save for my tidbits. But basically, it's time for Jean-Luc to give his very eloquent, very heartfelt toast.
That's when that happened. I'm sorry I referred to it so much earlier.
That's all right. It led us to this point. And you know what? Yeah, let's call it a night. But first, deck of cards comes out. Time for a little poker. Couple hands, 3, 4 maybe.
I love that.
Credits roll over their last game. And of course, very reminiscent of the last scene of All Good Things.
Yes.
And you think that's it, but last beat, mid-credits, things stop. Jack's funking his duffel bag over on his bunk. And in the doorway appears our good friend Q. He's not dead. He's a scoundrel. He just said that to Jean-Luc to make him feel better. And yes, the trial is over for Jean-Luc, but it's just beginning for Jack. Final credits roll.
I am so blown away by where all of that got us, and now I think we gotta get a little down and dirty. Oh my gosh! It looks like Metalis is just saying there's going to be another series, and and Jack's going to be a big part of it. So you've got a Picard in there, so that's great. And he brought back Q, which doesn't this in many ways negate season 2?
And I'll tell you, it does. I mean, Q wasn't the only. I was going to say Q wasn't the only aspect, but he certainly was at the forefront of all of it. He made it happen.
I mean, yes, a lot happened in season 2, but one of the big things that happens is we see the relationship between Picard and Q come to a head. It comes to a resolution where Q is saying, "I'm dying, and I just wanted to be with you because you're my friend."
Mm-hmm.
And it's sweet. It's very sweet. But oh nope, John Delancey's back.
And maybe he didn't lie to John Luke. Maybe he was. It is the Q continuum after all. Could be another Q that looks the same. They could have resurrected him. Maybe we'll find out.
That is very wise. They should pay you money for explaining that, because that explanation I would accept. So far, the you humans are so you mortals. You mortals are so linear. That's not good enough for me.
No.
To say.
And I'll even go so far to say, John, that Q has retained his elderly appearance because he is going to be, in his mind, a father figure to Jack.
Which is a great storyline. Joe Townsel is a great writer, and that's why he comes up with these good explanations. And that's great too, that he wants to be like a father figure to Jack. That makes sense. Have to admit, in part 9, I was not in love with his acting, and I never remember his name. Spaliers.
Yes.
Ed Spaliers. But I do like his relationship with Rafi and with Seven. I like his goofy personality.
His interaction with Sydney.
Oh yes. This chemistry that he has with Sydney, and he is a bit of a he's a bit of a roguish fellow. So
he's a Lothario. Yeah.
They've I like how on this proposed series, and it's the Enterprise. It's an Enterprise, so they can do another Star Trek now. They really can.
Let me be the first, John, if I can interrupt just for a moment.
Yeah.
The Enterprise. Gee.
Okay, that's funny because the way I was saying it was the Enterprise. G. What's up, G? You like the Enterprise?
Last week we were hoping they wouldn't F up the Enterprise F. Now we got the Enterprise G.
I just love it. I love it. I had never liked the character of Rafi. They have totally redeemed her by now.
I totally agree.
And and that was another scene that I blew past when we were doing.
Well, as did we both. Yes, a very wonderful scene. Goodbye with her and Worf, where she's finally with her son's love and blessing, wants her to meet her granddaughter and have a relationship with her family again.
Now, I mean, to the ex and to the son's credit, she really was a train wreck when they last saw her.
Oh yeah, back in season 1.
Yeah, so there is not, it's not that she was being treated unfairly, but she has achieved so much, and she achieved a lot of it undercover as an undercover agent. And so her commendations weren't known. They weren't public, but someone leaked them.
Yes. Wasn't it nice of that mysterious benefactor and friend to leak that information to the media?
Swords are fun. And so is leaking to the media.
So is leaking.
And I really loved that. I really loved that it was a fairly well-constructed redemption of the character.
Yes.
That, and she's been trained by Worf, trained in fighting and trained in attitude. So, and has really proven herself as an ass kicker. So the fact that she's the number 1, that's the Riker role.
Yes.
So now you've got 7 of 9, 7 as the captain, probably won't be going down with the boarding party, but badass Rafi will.
Makes sense.
And then in the sort of like the overconfident male on the bridge, you've got Jack Picard. And that's pretty awesome. And he's got a lot of knowledge. He's good at a lot of different things. Jack of all trades, if you will.
Excellent.
So and I do like all the kids on the Titan Bridge as well.
Well, again, I have to mention Sydney. We have the beginning. I mean, again, more discussion for next week when we do our 11th hour. But I honestly, and I don't think this is wishful thinking, I don't think it's being overly optimistic to say, I would be shocked if Star Trek Legacy does not occur. And if so, they've got the beginnings of a great cast now.
Yeah, right now. And the one thing I would love to know, and you could find out if you asked anybody who was part of the bridge, anybody who was part of the crew that did multiple episodes, the question you would ask would be, did you sign a contract that has an option for you to be picked up for a series? Because I guarantee you, especially if they're shooting in Canada, which the modern Trek episodes tend to be done, they're really good about contracts up there. Their contracts are very clear and usually very, binding. And I would love to know, like, if the girl who plays Sydney LaForge signed usually what happens is you sign a contract that says you will commit to them for 5 years, and they have the option of firing you at any point. That's how TV contracts work.
Or the show is canceled, what have you,
And they don't owe you nothing. They don't have to pay you off. You can't leave. You don't have the options they have. They have the options. But yeah, that's a very good question. Joshua Postel joins us and says, "Holy shit, that was epic!" And so many feels. It really was. It really was a great episode.
You know what, John? On a personal aside, I am, as you know, and so generously praise every week. I am a writer of horror. I do tend to go for the dark and bizarre, as I dub myself.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm a sucker for a happy ending, just like anybody else. And wow, what a great feel good method, ending on which to carry this forward. I'm not going to say end it.
Yeah.
Because it's not over. It can't be.
It's a story that comes with its own ability to continue. Yes. I do love that. I also love that, we don't need everybody from Next Generation to have a good show.
Right.
I think that's what they were trying to tell us with the presence of Rafi, with the presence of Seven, eventually the presence of Jack, of LaForge's daughters. There really is a next generation, if you will.
I've heard the phrase, and it's an accurate one, as it turns out, because literally there's at least a couple people on this crew that are descendants of the Next Generation.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. So I'm very excited about that. Joshua Postel. And then that scene in Jack's cabin with the 1701G. Oh my gosh. I mean, Q being back, it's a cheat, but I'll also allow it because I think it could be interesting.
Well, you know what? Jonathan Lancey let slip a year ago that he was going to be in the third season of Picard.
He did. I remember him saying that. And I remember going, "Oh, you're crazy." John Delancey. Oh my God. If John Delancey was a car, he would have 500,000 miles on him. That guy, as an actor, he has done everything. He has been everywhere. It's wild that he was right. He was telling us the truth.
Now, John, if Star Trek Legacy goes to series,
yes,
can you guess what's in my mind as far as being the one major change they absolutely have to make?
Well, I mean, I have my idea, which is kind of stolen from something I read on the internet, but do you want to hear it now or after yours?
I'll just tell mine because it's silly.
Yeah.
Turn on the damn lights. I do not want to watch a series where you can't see it.
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Well, you know what? When we saw the Enterprise bridge at the end of Discovery season 2, it looked great.
Yeah.
But when it went to series as Strange New Worlds, they made enhancements.
Yeah.
They can do it here too, and they've got to. Seriously, I mean, it is so hard just to see, and I really think it detracts from the quality of the episode. So, please, Mr. Metalis, take heed.
Go buy some more lights at Lowe's and just install them.
Something.
For heaven's sake, please.
What were your thoughts, John?
You know, I had read it's like I read a great headline which said I never get his name right, so I have to have it in front of me, and that would be Todd Stashwick,
Yes,
who plays Captain Liam Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
Todd Stashwick and Terry Metalis have supposedly mentioned that there are ways of bringing back Shaw. And so I went to go read it, and it's like on one of these, Screen Rant or, comicbook.com or one of these absolutely we make something out of nothing blogs. But they did mention that it might be possible for there to be a holographic version of Shaw.
Well, we've seen one.
We did see one. That's absolutely right. I mean, there's no reason to believe that could happen. But I think I mentioned it yesterday with you, Joe, was I wouldn't get mad at a hologram. I wouldn't get mad at a hologram of Shaw, but I wouldn't get mad at a hologram of Picardo, the EMH from from Voyager. I mean, granted, he was not supposed to be the permanent doctor, and he was not supposed to be on all the time. But he did have a relationship with Seven, which would remind me, frankly, of if you go back to The Cage, the relationship between Pike and that ship's doctor.
Yeah, I'm remembering the actor Philip Hoy, but not the character name, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't remember it for
but he was a rather, he was an elderly MD.
He was that.
I mean, let's get past this notion. I think we got a little bit of a commentary on it during this season. The older folks have value too.
Oh, please. Oh, yeah. No, a ton of jokes, and that's fine. But really, I mean, the old folks delivered. Yeah, in a very big way. And it's not just because Joe and I are well over 40 that we think that.
Hey, speak for yourself, buddy.
Joe is 40 and a day.
Many days. Dr. Boyce was the character name in the original.
Nice.
Yeah.
Boyce, Dr. Boyce. Fine name.
Yeah.
A fine name.
Might be a future descendant of our good friend Clover.
Yes, good thing. All right. I am making the command decision that we are going. We don't have a lot of them, but Mr. Townsel, would you give us the first of the Townsel tidbits?
Well, as we speculated before the show, I think that this episode was just jammed full of story and character dialogue. So we didn't do a lot of fun trivia, in my opinion. We'll probably see over the next couple of days. Oh, what about there's this, and this. The one thing that stuck in my mind was that Worf's next plans were to teach a session in Mugato meditation. The Mugato, of course, being the white thing with the white monster with the horn in
the unicorn ape.
Unicorn ape. There you go. That's what I was looking for.
TOS, who the poison horn. Mugato meditation. I'm like, is that like Zumba? It just doesn't. It has a ridiculous name.
Well, it's been a long time, so who knows how they've evolved and regressed over the years, like the Klingons have, for that matter. I thought it was a nice touch that when Jack goes into his quarters in the mid-credits, seeing that he has this little fat ship Enterprise D that he puts on the table and adjusts just so.
Yeah, I loved that. I did love that.
But I think our tidbits this week primarily are just the details of the show itself, all the numerous the nuances and all the just everything going on all around.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of Easter eggs. There were some very out and sort of bodacious things being done. This is an interesting thing from Memory Alpha. This is the second episode in the franchise to have been fully written and directed by the same person.
Wow, that's a good. I guess I knew that in the back of my mind, but didn't occur.
Do you have off the top of your brain what the first one might have been? The first of the two?
Oh, gosh, I couldn't say.
I sure didn't know this. Star Trek Original Series, 3rd season, Elan of Troyes.
Wow.
1968. That's the last time one person wrote an episode and then directed it.
Well, it's no wonder I didn't grasp that, because that's going back.
That one's got dust on it, my friend. With this episode, Riker and Troy have appeared in 3 season finales.
Wow.
One of
them not great.
Yeah, right. The Enterprise final episode, These Are the Voyages, which is considered one of the biggest crimes committed against Star Trek. And Worf has appeared in a different set of 3, All Good Things and What You Leave Behind, as well as this one. Seven and Tuvok appeared in 2. They appeared in Endgame and later in and this one. And Picard, Beverly, and Geordi have appeared in 2 finales, All Good Things and this one. As Joe pointed out, the series finale of Star Trek The Next Generation, All Good Things, ended with a poker game. This one ended with a poker game as well. Here's what I loved. I loved this. Do you remember the movie? I can't remember the title of the movie. It's about oh my god, stars Paul Giamatti, and they go to wine country, and
my goodness, Sideways.
One
of my favorites.
Okay, so Sandra Oh told the story about how there's a picnic, and Virginia Madsen, Sandra Oh, Thomas Hayden Church, Paul Giamatti, they have a picnic. And so the director, I think is Sandra Oh's husband, but the director said to them, okay, we're going to do this in a long shot. So the camera's going to be way back over there. And I want you guys to sit right in this beautiful area. And I want you to have a picnic. And they go, where are the pages? Like, what's the dialogue? What are we supposed to be doing? And he's like, have a picnic. Just have a picnic and we'll shoot it. And they're like, that's all we're doing today? We're just going to have a picnic? And he's like, just have a picnic. And when you watch it, it's one of the most joyful, light, sweet scenes.
Beautiful scene.
Just absolutely beautiful. If you haven't seen Sideways, see it. Joe and I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. I've seen it numerous times. It's a go-to a lot. And we're talking about series finales. Well, while we're on the topic momentarily, the ending to Sideways during the running commentary dialogue, while she's leaving her phone message, he appears at her door, knocks on the door, fade to black. One of the all-time great movie endings, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Although it does contain a sound effect error.
Oh,
because he's knocking on glass, and the sound effect of somebody knocking on wood.
Come on, Foley crew. Come on.
Didn't take away one bit for me, though. Read that later.
The reason why I bring it up is I got the feeling, I can't say for absolute sure, but I got the feeling that that's what they were doing at the poker table. They were just playing poker.
Oh, yeah. There was no dialogue there. I mean, obviously to a point, and I'm sure there's always some improvisation.
Yes.
Improvisation, excuse me. Especially with such seasoned veterans who have played these parts regularly and off and on for decades, literally. But yeah, when we're playing poker over the credits, yeah, that's just 7 friends enjoying each other.
So sweet. A camera down, camera on the ceiling, shooting down on them as it spins slowly, which reminded me of a clock and how time moves, how time progresses.
Yes.
And just just beautiful. Just really just a very, very sweet ending. And of course, a false ending, because then we get the backdoor pilot of, Enterprise G. Enterprise G.
And you know what? It's definitely, the poker scene, of course, demonstrates a more prolonged and satisfying final shot as compared to the one in All Good Things. I was brief,
Yes.
just
Very
long enough
brief.
to get to the Enterprise flying into the sunset.
Yeah.
But again, some of these characters have probably seen the end of the line. Others, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But for now, this group, this is their final best moment, and it's wonderful.
I think we can only guess what's going to happen next, and that's really more for predictions. So, you feeling covered with tidbits?
One
What a
thing,
weird, what a weird
oh
question.
no, that should have been down and dirty, I guess. But if I can just throw it out there briefly,
Oh, please, please.
I did have. I think I'm coming around already. I did have mixed emotions about rechristening the Titan as the Enterprise G.
It's a big move, big bold
Big move, and I'm thinking my initial thought. I'm sorry, nothing against the Titan. They have done and will continue to do their thing as the Enterprise G. But I'm thinking, is this ship kind of puny to be the new Enterprise?
Okay, okay. Do we know how many people can fit on the Titan?
A couple hundred.
I think I think Captain Shaw does mention how many lives, how many souls he's responsible for, and it is
Well, and it's got to be
in
at
the
least
hundreds.
maybe 400 or 500, because it's bigger than the original Enterprise, which held that complement.
Okay, that answers my question, because I honestly think they're hearkening back to a smaller ship.
That's why I'm already coming around there, because really, if you look at the D, the E, and then the F,
Yeah,
they are getting pretty bloated.
they're gigantic. I mean, yeah, they're the flagship of the fleet, and then it's the notorious and beloved and infamous Enterprise, and I do love that. But I never look at a Viking cruise liner and go, man, I want to be on one of those. I want to be, stuck on one of those for 5 years.
Well, and we have to acknowledge that this was the Titan A was rechristened the Enterprise G in tribute to the Enterprise crewmen who saved the day.
Yes.
And you know what? I doubt it's the flagship of the fleet.
Oh no, there's no way.
No way. But you know
that's
what?
hilarious. Yeah, there's no way.
Leaner and meaner, new direction for a possible Star Trek legacy.
Yeah,
I'm down. My
Yeah.
initial thoughts were like, really? But I'm getting it.
I wrestled with it a little bit, but the fact that it is a beautiful ship, I loved it. The minute I first saw the Titan, I loved that ship. So this
Just turn
works.
on the lights. I'll be happy.
Normally the grumpy old man wants the lights to be turned off.
Oh, not this one.
You guys are wasting energy. If you're not
okay, John, now I think we're ready for our next category.
Okay. All right. Let's did I get this right? Please tell me I did. This is a tough one. Did you have any MVPs? Or an MVP in this one?
John, I hope that our friends and followers don't think this is a cop-out. I hope they don't think I'm being wishy-washy or a weenie. I'm going to give the title to everybody.
Oh boy.
I can't. Okay, every single character had a pivotal, essential role in this last story in part 10.
Yeah,
every single one.
I may have more to say about this later, but it does apply now as well. One of the ways that they managed to de-Borgify everyone is they reset the transporters. They send everyone through those transporters, but there's also a biological scan built into the transport, which Beverly had said 2 episodes ago she was arguing with herself whether or not to introduce it, because it basically goes after a species and she doesn't want to be part of wiping out a species. And it's an interesting argument, and I'm glad she brought it up, and I'm glad they, solved it. I don't know how much they solved it, really. um, it 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 speaks to one of the great things that happened kind of under the current, kind of outside of the main movement of the series this season, was how many times Beverly makes a medical discovery or a medical observation that helps tremendously. And just as in the original TNG, we had the three friends, the three space friends. We had Geordi and Data and Will Wheaton. I'm sorry,
Wesley.
Wesley. Thank you. Played by Will Wheaton, the wonderful Will Wheaton. But the three of them would solve mysteries all the time in the Technobabble universe. The medical universe, yeah. I mean, Dr. Crusher did solve some mysteries, but she did that a lot this season. And we do find out that she becomes like the main medical officer of all of Starfleet.
Back as a bigwig in Starfleet Medical, and yes, promotion to Admiral,
And
which is wonderful. And you know what? She did wrestle with the dilemma of identifying a species through the transporter technology, but you know what? They did find one. It works. We saw it. They caught one guy.
It's
doesn't mean they're going to kill him.
No, not necessarily going to kill him.
Yeah,
but they might take him back to the Daystrom Institute. And
well, you know what? If you're gonna, you gotta face the music. If you're gonna do the crime, do the time.
You mess with the bull, you are gonna get the horns.
So leading back to John's possible MVP here.
I had when you said you felt like maybe you were copping out, and I don't think you were. I think you're right. I think everybody shone. I think there was a lot of great moments. That's just good writing. That's just good balance, you know.
I mean, the only one to possibly exclude, and I don't want to do it because she had the least to do was Rafi.
Right.
But again, a pivotal essential deal, if not before, during her wonderful scene seeing her granddaughter and her goodbye with Worf. So I stand by my selection.
I absolutely agree, and I think Rafi acquits herself extremely well in the overall series. And that final scene with Worf, I'm a big Worf fan, so if Worf says, "Hey, she's cool," then I'm gonna go, "Yeah, she is. She's cool."
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Any friend of Worf.
My cop out is going to be Picard. I think they did a really beautiful job, because what we know from Patrick Stewart is he had said he was not sure. He did not want to do TV again. And I get that, because that's years of your life doing that. He would be open to doing movies. So there's still a chance, if they're doing Star Trek movies and they figure out how to, not do the Chris Pine stuff.
Yeah.
Which they could do for Paramount Plus. I do feel like Paramount Plus is going to be making Star Trek movies.
I do too, based on what we were talking about yesterday. And I do think our feature film in theaters future is obviously iffy, or at least it's a long hiatus.
Yeah.
I really think Paramount Plus is going to see value in doing one-offs or 2-3 parters or what have you that are separate.
Yeah.
On a streaming service.
I hope they continue with this timeline. I hope they continue using these actors. Yeah, I mean, if I get to see a little bit of Geordi because I'm watching the adventure of Sydney or both daughters, if I get to see more Gates, I love me some Gates McFadden.
Yeah.
These are now the people behind the desks. I assume Picard as well. They're now like the big muckety mucks, seeing as though so many people got killed above them.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a question there. Like that, did Picard go back to the Vineyard and go back to Laris?
I don't know. I mean, the Federation really needs him, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, but you can beam from the Vineyard to San Francisco in 2 seconds. So,
and Laris is very cool about that.
Yeah,
totally cool chick.
And the thing about Terry Matalas as a writer and a director, but I really admired the writing, as I've told you before.
Yeah.
If we do have Geordi appear on Star Trek Legacy to see, and if Sydney's there,
yeah,
it won't be stunt casting. He will be part of the story that counts.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
as he's demonstrated all season long on season 3.
Yeah.
Everything counts.
That's absolutely true. I'm very heartened by that. I'm very pro Terry Metalis because of that, because he's not just a fan and he doesn't just do things to make the fans happy, which I love, by the way. I don't understand why people are so cynical about that. Well, it's just fan service. I'm a fan. I enjoy service. Thank you very much. It's like saying, oh, it's just room service.
Oh, I'm sure there are people out there that right now they say, oh, all these kids appearing, being assigned to this same ship. Oh, they've made it the Enterprise G. You know what? I'm not so far gone in my own cynicism. I don't appreciate and love that. I think it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
No, absolutely. There are reasons given why things have worked out this way. Let's enjoy it. Let's let them tell the story. There's lots of stories to be told. Hopefully, they'll get around to the ones that you idiots want.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pointing at all the people in my imagination who are in the Facebook groups, which I'm convinced 90% of those people are just bots trying to piss people off.
Oh, there's, or more simply just the haters. No one not satisfied. And listen, I have been we've worked together, you and I, now on Picarder and Picardest, among other Star Trek related things. And you know that I am, when it's due, I am critical. I will say this wasn't so hot. This episode sucked.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And why am I so much praise for season 3? Because it deserves it.
yes, absolutely. I just want to throw the reminder in one more time. As Joe and I have been saying, we are going to do a show next week that will be the 11th hour. And we don't have a time yet because we're lining up guests and because there's no specific episode that we're breaking down. So it doesn't have to happen on Thursday because it debuted Wednesday night or whatever.
But watch for that promo.
Watch for our promo. And yes, I'll make a promo. I will gladly, gleefully make a promo for Picardest, the 11th hour next week. Go to the Facebook account, Starbase 80. That's us. You can see the Starbase 80 logo in the upper left hand of your screen. Watch for that logo. You will find Starbase 80. And Joe and I can't wait to tell you who's going to be guesting.
Can't wait for that. I am so looking forward to talking to these two special guests. They've been wonderful in the past and always will be. Going to add so much to our discussion for the 11th hour. It's going to be great.
The Starbase 80 crew, we're trying to get them together. Okay, that's it. That's all I'll say. Yeah. Do we want to do predictions, Joe, or is that more for next week? More for the 11th?
You know what? Hold on to the graphic. I'll just say this. I predict we're going to come back next week and have lots to say.
I predict you are correct.
I didn't get my predictions from yesterday. Again, not surprising. I was really hoping that we'd see any or all of Janeway and Wesley, but you know what? Another time, maybe in Legacy.
Maybe. At this point, I think Legacy is the greatest idea ever. I think giving Terry Metalis, amounts of, you don't have to give him the whole damn franchise, but giving him the ability to tell these stories, I just want to hear how he resolves storylines from the other shows, from Deep Space Nine, from Voyager, from Enterprise, for heaven's sake. Scott Bakula has actually said he would come back.
Yeah, hey John, I go to 31 Flavors, not so much anymore for health reasons, but I go inside at 31 Flavors. Pretty much always get Rocky Road, but there are other flavors there, and that's for other people. Or for me, if I want to sample everything. But the point is, and I think our good friend Flubble Boyce put it just this way: there are many flavors of Star Trek to enjoy, and this is one that I will savor if they do, and I sure hope they do.
Absolutely. To me, it would, and I don't think anyone's asking for this, but I am, which is, don't let Picard be the end of this. This was a 3 series, I'm sorry, that's the English phrasing. This is the 3-season series, and that's fine, because you are working with a man of very advanced age in Patrick Stewart. And it really was all about Patrick Stewart and what he had left in the tank and what he was willing to do. And that's fine. That's fine. But you have got so much talent in this show, especially near the end, especially when they bring back Q and go, there might be more Q. Now, to me, that's not the, I never loved Q. So that's not going to bring me back. But
of course it will, John. Come on.
I love that it puts Jack in a spot. I love that Jack now, I mean, one of the things that was so funny about getting Jean-Luc Picard into these wacky adventures was he was such a stick. He was, well, what is going on here? Q, stop this now. Like, he could be so overly serious. Jack's the opposite. Jack is, really a jolly kind of character.
Yeah, but now that he's been exercised of his own demons, yes, he's gonna be more happy-go-lucky. And Q had his own special relationship with Janeway, and the stories it took on were very pertinent to those two. Definitely, we can have some great stuff with Q and Jack, and of course, 7 of 9 knows Q. She's met him.
Did we ever get a sense of Q Jr.?
Well, we did, because he was on there, played by John Delancey's real life son.
Yeah.
And I don't know that 7 of 9 ever interacted directly with Q himself, but she certainly interacted with Q Jr.
Right.
Because he decided, well, I'm just going to go down where 7's working and deprive her of her clothing. And she goes, whatever. And didn't get a rise out of her. He gave it back. But it was a nice little moment for us in the audience, wasn't it?
Oh, Jerry Ryan, you are the gift that keeps giving. I swear, Adam. I don't, I remember speaking of being cynical, I remember being very cynical of 7 of 9 when they introduced her. And as I've said, in terms of Picard, I think they've just done such a beautiful job of making 7 into just a great hero. And someone I really believe as a captain. She has been through it. She has paid her dues.
I totally agree, John. I mean, I don't think it was ever the intention to introduce the character only as eye candy. Of course, that was one of the components of it.
Yeah,
because from day one, she was a compelling character beyond her physical attributes. And others on the cast, most notably, I'm blanking, Catherine, our captain.
Yes, Kate Mulgrew.
I'm thinking Catherine. Kate Mulgrew. It's very public at this point that she definitely had misgivings about it.
Of course she would. And
but Jerry Ryan proved herself, quickly and thoroughly, and long term.
Yeah, Jerry Ryan is like watching every actress that people said, oh, she's just eye candy. She is like the revenge for that.
Yes.
She is the one who and frankly, and I could say that about Marina Sirtis, and I could say that about Gates McFadden. They were very attractive women on this show that was so geared towards a predominantly male audience, I'd say.
Well, Jolene Blaylock, had a similar
Jolene Blaylock
challenge, very attractive, shapely, those curves accentuated with her cat suit.
Yeah.
But again, day one, great character. Put her own spin on the Vulcan persona, given the time frame of the series.
Yes.
Nothing but kudos for her as well.
So, I'd have to say we're pretty much done here for this week, Mr. Townsel.
I think we are. We're starting to edge into 11th hour territory. So let's not shoot our wad and save some for next week.
We're going to be the only people on the internet not doing that. Okay. What have I done here? Where is this? Okay. I got to turn down just a little bit. Again, we will announce on our Facebook page, and then we'll get a promo out there. Feel free to share it if you see it. But there will be one more episode of PICARDEST
with special guests.
Special guests showing up. It's going to be exciting. We want you to be there with us. And till next week, LLAP.
LLAP.
Our
PICARD season 3. Awesome.
It really was. It was awesome. And I'm so glad you talked me into this, Joe.
I am so glad too.
See you next week, everybody.
Bye, everybody.